Guys, welcome back to Southern Extreme TV. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on my channel. Today we have another thermal optic review. We're going to be talking about the GOYOTE TU635L 3.0. So as always, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are trying to grow this channel as big as we can get it. But with no further ado, let's talk about today's video. We're doing a thermal optic review. And if you've kept up with the channel, we've done some reviews of some GOYOTE thermals in the past. I'm a really big fan of GOYOTEs because they fit that kind of niche, in my opinion, of having really good image quality, but also trying to keep that budget-friendly mindset in the back of their mind. So if you're somebody who enjoys stretching your dollar and getting the most for your dollar, then GOYOTE is a really awesome thermal that I think is going to check a lot of boxes. So let's dive in. We're going to do a very quick unboxing, kind of show you everything that's inside of this. We'll talk about some features, some of the specs on it, and then we'll dive into what I think about the scope, and then maybe some things that I don't like about the scope. So with that, let's dive into this box here. So again, I did say that this is the 635L. This is going to be their 640 resolution optic. It is going to have a 35 millimeter objective lens, and it is going to have a built-in laser rangefinder, which is really, really cool. So we're going to set that box to the side. You do get this nice little carry case. You've got a zipper that opens it up, and we're going to start right here in the top. You've got pretty much all of your accessories here. The one real cool thing with the accessories is you are going to get a one-piece 30 millimeter QD mount. This is designed for a Picatinny rail, so if you're running a bolt gun that has a pick rail, if you're running an AR that has a pick rail, this thing right here is going to work absolutely perfect for you. And to me, it feels like it's built really, really solid, really rigid, but it's also not super heavy. So that's the other thing that I really like about it. So you get the scope mount that's going to come with it. You get your battery charger. You get two 18650 batteries. Now, the one cool thing about this optic is it does have a built-in internal battery. So basically you plug the scope up, you let the scope charge, and then you don't have to actually have any of these 18650 batteries with you to be able to run the scope. You just got to make sure that your scope is charged. But if you're like me and Guffy and sometimes you forget to charge your stuff, obviously you've got the 18650s that are kind of a backup or a foolproof method of making sure that you always have some type of battery source with you to charge that optic. You get a USB-C cable, which the USB-C is how you charge the scope. It's also your connecting device over to your dual battery charger for those 18650s as well. Here you get a multitude of different power adapters, so depending on what country you're in, if you're traveling, whatever it may be, you've got power adapters for no matter where you're going. I'm gonna set these over to the side because we know that we're in America and we know what we need. You've got another USB-C cable here, so this cable is going to be kind of dedicated for plugging the actual scope up and doing that charging. It's a little bit thicker, a little beefier of a cable, so that's what you're going to be charging directly into your optic itself. And then this smaller USB-C cable is what is intended to be used with the dual battery charger as well. You get a carry strap, which don't really use the carry strap all that much, and then you get a long Allen key here, which is really nice, and then you've got your warranty cards. So the one cool thing, while we're talking about the warranty card before I get the scope out, GOYOTE is a very unique thermal manufacturer because they actually offer arguably the longest warranty of any thermal manufacturer out there. They have a 10-year thermal sensor warranty. That is incredible. If you think about how fast and how quickly the thermal world has been changing, even over the last 3 years, having an optic that is manufactured in 2025, and they are standing behind that optic saying that all the way until 2035, you are going to be under warranty and covered with this scope. That right there in itself, number one, is peace of mind for you as a purchaser. But number two, to me, that tells me that God really believes in the products that they're putting out on the market for consumers to buy. And that means that they're willing to put their name and their reputation on that optic and basically say, hey, listen, if something happens, something messes up, we're going to make it right because we believe in our optic. We believe that you should be able to get 10 years of runtime out of this optic with absolutely no problems. And you should be able to get more than that, obviously, but we're going to back it and guarantee it for 10 years. So kudos to them for making that happen. So here is the actual optic. There's nothing else in there. You do get that kind of padded carry case. Set this over to the side. Now, first initial impressions of this optic, number one, is it is the tubular style, which if you are familiar with the thermal world, you've got kind of two different style thermal optics, scopes, if you will. You've got a tubular style body, which is what we see here, where you've got a 30 millimeter tube, which will set into this, this scope mount. Or you get what we call the brick look. That's just something that me and Guffey call them because they're a little bit bigger, a little beefier. They look like a brick. They're just bigger and bulkier. They're not streamlined like this is. So if you're somebody who enjoys this layout, then you're really going to like this scope. You're really going to like the way that it feels because it's a very lightweight scope. Obviously with the 35 millimeter objective lens, you're going to cut a little bit of weight there because you've got the 35 versus the 50. However, you are going to lose a little bit of field of view at those longer distances with the 35 versus the 50 millimeter objective lens. But you're kind of splitting hairs in my opinion because you're not really losing that much clarity. Really, it's associated with the field of view at a longer distance. So not that big of a deal. Right off the bat, I can tell you that it feels really good. All the buttons feel like they're well put together. The one cool thing that I like about this optic is two functionality pieces that are kind of unique for the focus. The focus knob is actually mounted right here on the top. So you got your power button that you mash and click down, but then on this top, which would be your elevation turret on a normal day scope, this is going to be how you actually focus the optic. Now, the reason that that's a big deal is the vast majority of optics on the market in the thermal world, they have their focus ring way out here on the end, out here towards the end of the objective lens, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But when you're in the woods and you're hunting and you're in a situation where you're watching a coyote or something's coming in, having to reach that extra little distance, and again, this is nitpicky, having to reach that extra little distance to get up there and try to turn that objective lens on the front of your scope can sometimes be difficult, mainly because a lot of times we've got cables and cords running to our scope because we're running external battery packs. Our tripod fluid head may be there. A lot of things are out there on the end, towards the end of that scope, whereas right here on your elevation turret, or where your elevation turret typically goes, having that focus knob right there is a really cool thing for them to do because it makes it very simplistic and very easy to get to. Number two is your zoom dial. Now, the majority of people out there on the market, their zoom dial is going to be an actual button that you're going to click through a series of zoom modifications. There is some optics out there, like I believe the DNT Thermite, along with let's see, I'm running the iRay RH50R, and I think that Knockpix just released their version of the RH50R as well. Those optics feature a zoom lever very similar to this, so you don't have to worry about trying to find a button in the middle of the night. You know that you're going to reach up there, push this little dial over, and it's going to zoom in for you. That's going to feel very natural for somebody who is getting into the thermal world where you're used to running normal daytime optics. If you're used to going like if it's your base magnification at 3 and twisting over to 9 like a normal Vortex or a normal Athlon, this is going to feel very normal and feel very at home to you. So I really do like that feature with this optic. The button layout is very simplistic as well. You've got two buttons here in the back. One button is going to operate your video as well as your photo function, so you can take photos as well as videos. You do have a microphone built in on this, so you can share your hunts with friends and family. And then the other button is going to be your LRF, laser rangefinder, for those of you that don't know, because this does have an LRF built into the optic, which is this big hood right here. And it's good for, I believe, out to 1,600 meters. And we'll confirm that here in just a minute when we go over some of the specs. But I really like the layout of this optic. I like how sleek and lightweight it is. I love the simplicity of the button layout, and I love how large the buttons are to get into the menu setting. It's a simple short click, or it's a click and hold to get to different menu settings. So that's a really good job for them to do that, on top of the fact that your color palettes to change in and out of white hot, black hot, fuchsia, whatever it may be, is going to be on this side where your normal parallax adjustment is on a daytime scope. So just simply rotating that in and out is going to rotate through the different color palettes that this optic has. Obviously, I prefer white hot or black hot. White hot can be a little bit brighter on the animal. Black hot, I think you tend to get a little bit more detail on the animal, though white hot seems to show a lot better, so it's easier to track that animal once you see it. So it's just kind of a toss-up as to which type of palette that you actually like. So really do like that. Now, let's talk about the specifications behind this, and then I'll go into some of the things that maybe are kind of questionable on my end for what I do like or don't like. So one cool thing you are going to get with this here, so with the 640, you're going to get a 12 micron sub 18 millikelvin sensor. You're getting a 50 hertz refresh rate, so that's a big deal. For those of you that don't know what the refresh rate means, basically it is how fast is that image processing in the optic and relaying it to your eye, basically. So the higher the number, the higher the hertz, the more clear that this optic is going to look when you're panning left to right. So if you're in a situation where you're tracking an animal, you're tracking a coyote, whatever it may be, if you have a lower hertz scope, it's not relaying that image fast enough. And what typically you can see happen is a lower hertz scope, when you're moving, that image will kind of look like it drags. It'll look like it has almost a mirage to it, if you will. Whereas once you start getting up in about that 50 hertz range, everything is very quick. So when you move right, that image is right there with you. You're not waiting for a delay in that image to come through the processor, into the screen, and then into your eye. So having a 50 hertz refresh rate on this optic's a really big deal. Your base magnification is 2.8. We might as well call that 3x. It's basically a 3x base mag, which is good. Your typical 640s and 384s in this style scope for the predator hunter or a hog hunter, you're seeing that 3x base mag is kind of the standard, if you will. And it's a real good place to be, because it's a low enough base magnification that you still get a wide field of view if you're wanting to use that optic to scan, but it's also a high enough base magnification that with your PIP, or your picture-in-picture incorporated, which this scope does have, you don't always have to zoom in. Because you're at 3x, your picture-in-picture is going to be at 6x, so without ever having to touch this dial, you're automatically looking through a 3x base mag with a picture-in-picture at 6x. Sometimes you don't even have to touch this thing to make shots all the way out to 100, 150 yards. So that is really, really nice. So 3x base mag goes all the way to 22.4. Let's call that 23 power, or you can round down if you want to call it 22 power. So basically a 3 to 22x. The detection range on this is out to basically 2,000 yards. It's 1,950 yards. 0.49 inch AM OLED display, a 1920 by 1080 display. Your color palettes, you get white hot, black hot, red hot, green hot, iron red, blue hot, and sepia. So for those of you that are interested in seeing that, I'm sure I'm relaying some of those color palettes in this video. Eye relief is 48 millimeter diopter, -5 to +5, zoom 14x. Laser rangefinder, so your LRF is good out to 1,630 yards. So I think I said 1,600 yards a minute ago. So 1,630 yards is what your LRF is good to. It does have Wi-Fi, has USB-C, has microphone, Bluetooth, photo, video, memory capacity, which is really nice on this. You get 128 gigabytes of memory capacity. Now, for me, that is a big deal because we do a lot of filming, we do a lot of stuff, and that's really nice to have that larger capacity. The issue with some of the other optics that's out there on the market, where maybe you're only getting 64 gigabyte or maybe you're only getting 32 gigabyte, which the 32 gigabyte is what I'm seeing a lot of. If you're somebody who forgets to go in there and delete videos on a daily or nightly basis, those video files can add up, especially if you get into a situation where you punch record and you just let that thing run for 10-15 minutes before you finally shut it off. If you forget to delete that, that gigabyte space starts eating up really quickly. And what you don't want to run into is a situation where, man, you get to a spot and all of a sudden a pack of 5 coyotes run out, or maybe you got 30 hogs in the field or whatever it may be, and you click record and it tells you that that memory is completely full and you lose that hunting experience from a video perspective. So having 128 gigabyte built-in memory is really cool. I mentioned earlier that you get the two 18650 batteries, and your batteries, I didn't show you guys this, so your battery compartment is on this outside edge. So you put your positive in first. This is a 3300 mAh 18650 battery. You get 2 of those, and the cool thing about this cap is it's only a quarter of a turn to get that out. Whereas I have seen some of the more budget-friendly thermals, you've got a screw knob over here that you have to sit there and unscrew and unscrew and unscrew and keep going before you can finally get to the battery. Whereas if you're in a situation where maybe you've got coyotes running in, your battery's getting ready to die, it's very easy to reach over there, do a quarter turn, take that battery out, put a new battery in, put the cap right back on there, do a quarter of a turn back. Now you've got brand new battery, you're up and going. So kudos to them for doing that. You are waterproof, which is a big deal. IP68 waterproof rating. You get Bluetooth remote control, which I think you can do that through your phone whenever you connect to it on the app. So that's kind of a high level run through of some of the specs on it. So really good job for them guys. Now, I want to talk about maybe some of the negatives that I have about this thing. The one negative that I have, and again, this is nitpicky, is for somebody like me and Guffey, where you enjoy running an external battery pack. You have to be able to, number one, mount that battery pack to your firearm or to your tripod, and then run some type of cable from that battery pack over to your optic. Where the USB-C female end is on this optic is back here on the right-hand side closest to your eye. Now, the reason that that is an issue is if typically somebody's going to have a battery pack, they're going to have it mounted out on the fore end of their AR, whether it be M-LOK or whether it be on a pick rail, which means that you have to have a cable that runs from all the way out here on the end or a little bit past this scope all the way back to here. And the issue with that is if you're running a bolt gun and you've got that cable sticking out, that bolt action is going to be right here near that USB-C port. So that's a little bit of a negative for me. Now, obviously, there used to be a way, or the way that we used to run our battery packs is we actually ran like a zipper pouch on the actual stock itself. Now, in this situation, if you're one of those guys that don't want your battery pack out on your handguard or on your tripod, but you like having that zipper pouch on your stock, you may actually like this USB-C port being located farther back closer to your eye, because that means your run of cable from that stock to this piece is going to be very short. So neither here nor there. The other negative is kind of back to the action. If you are running an AR-10 or an AR-15 platform and you have that wire cable that's running from a battery pack out on your handguard back to this USB-C port, that's a lot of cable that could get in the way when it's trying to eject that spent brass. That's just something else that brass has to get by. And I have seen it where that brass hits that cable just perfectly right and it doesn't get out of the chamber, and you can get a jam, some type of stovetop jam, or something funky can happen. So just trying to eliminate those type of necessities or those type of potential issues is something that you may have to try to overcome with this optic. But again, that's a very nitpicky, very small type thing. But it is something to think about because we are talking about a review of a thermal optic, so let's talk about all of the pros and the cons. The other thing that I'm going to say is slightly a negative for me is the eye relief. The eye relief is not fantastic in comparison to some of the other optics that's out there on the market. But again, we're not talking about a 640 resolution optic that is carrying a $4,000 to $5,000 or $6,000 price tag. We're talking about a 640 resolution optic that is coming in under $4,000, in about that mid $3,500 price range is where this optic's going to land. So you've got to take the pros and the cons, because again, some people, they don't mind having their eye up against this little cushion here. For me, I've grown accustomed to having my eye far enough away so that I'm not up against it, that's what I enjoy, that's what I'm comfortable doing, and that's what I prefer. Now, there is a way, and this is one thing that I'm gonna give them that I do like, is even though you do have this eye cushion back here on the back, the majority of people that give you this and they allow it to be removable, it's like a flimsy kind of push over the top type of eyepiece, which is kind of, it's very easy to rip off, if you will. This is actually a screw-on eyepiece, so it's very difficult for you to rip this off, which is what I really, really like. So then now you have an even shorter looking scope that you can put on your rifle. But again, you need to remember that that eye relief is not fantastic on this scope. So you're not going to be able to be 5 or 6 inches away to get that full field of view. You're going to have to be a little bit closer onto this scope to be able to make it a full sight picture. So that's really the only couple of negatives that I've got. Another nitpicky thing that I have is going to be your lens cover. Now, they do give you one, which I'm going to give them props for that, but I want you to watch this. So whenever I put this over to the side, this lens just falls down. Now, the reason that that's a little bit of an issue is that means that this lens is pretty much going to be resting on my handguard, which again, we're talking about nitpicky type stuff. Whereas I would like to see this piece on the end of this scope be stiffer, so that no matter where I spin and position this thing, it will stay in place. So that way, if I want it on the right side, it'll stay on the right side. If I want it on the left side, it'll stay on the left side. But where it's at right now, you can see how it just spins around. Not necessarily a huge deal, because I will say this, the one good thing about it is if for some reason this thing does get flipped up top where you're blocking your LRF, it's very easy for it to fall off to the side. So maybe there was some planning behind that on their end of, okay, well, we need to make sure that if something stupid happens and this thing flips up and gets in the way of the LRF, then it needs to be very easy to bump this thing and get it out of the way so the LRF is back up and running. So, you know, you take it for what it's worth. Some people may not find that big of a deal. Some people may find that a little bit of a big deal. But it's just something that I noticed that was kind of like you know, that's not the best that I've ever seen. But it's not a game changer or a deal breaker for me, in my opinion. Talked about the positives, talked about a little bit of the negatives. We talked about the way it feels. We've talked about some of the specs behind it, what all you get in the box. Let's talk about now the true, I guess, nitty gritty of the thermal. Let's talk about the clarity, the functionality behind it, and where I think this scope compares to some of the other thermals that is out there on the market. Because again, this scope is going to be coming in around that $3,500 price tag. And again, that's the MSRP. You may be able to find some dealers that have that a little bit cheaper. You may find some dealers that's got that a little bit more expensive, but let's just call it the mid 3,500 price range is where you're going to be at. Now let's think about some of the other 640s that's out there on the market that's going to be in that same price range. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot. You've got D&T that has a couple 640s that are below that price point, but you're not getting that 640 with an LRF and with a 3X base mag. You can get it with the LRF, but you're going to be at that 1X base mag, which is kind of, you take it for what it's worth. I prefer the 3X base mag, in my opinion, over the 1X. The other name brand out there is going to be Rix. Rix is known for making very budget-friendly optics that has decent image quality. I'm not a huge fan of Rix products. However, a lot of people are. And because they have a kind of niche of finding a way to thread that needle between a high-end 384 and a low-end 640, a lot of times people will look at that and say, okay, well, if I can spend a couple $100 more on this optic and get a 640, I would rather have the higher resolution in lieu of having the lower resolution with maybe a better name brand or a higher praised name brand optic, if that makes sense. And one great example of that is going to be the AGM Rattler V3 384. It's a 384 resolution optic with a 35mm objective lens. Their price tag's coming in right at that $3,000 point. So you get the LRF, which you get an LRF here. You get a 3x base mag on the AGM, which you get a 3x base mag here. But you get a 384 resolution on the AGM, and you get a 640 resolution here. To me, the 640 resolution over the 384 resolution is worth the extra $500. So I think that that's where this optic is going to really compete with, because I think you have the 640 resolution there. Obviously, you're not going to be at the clarity level that you would expect from like a Noctix or an iRay or a Pulsar or a higher end AGM, where those price tags are going to be carrying anywhere from $4,500 all the way up to $6,000. That's not what this scope is competing with. This scope is finding that niche between the 384 high-end 384s and the low-end 640s, which is exactly what Rick's has done. So to me, if you're somebody who is looking for that similar style layout, that similar clarity with that very similar price tag, this right here is right up your alley. And let's not forget the fact that it's carrying a 10-year warranty on the sensor, which is double the warranty that Rick's offers, double the warranty that D&T offers, double the warranty that anything else on the market offers that I know of. Now, if I'm wrong on that, I'm just ignorant. So I really think that, to me, that's where this optic is really going to make its name brand, is just threading the needle between what people are looking to do. And the reason that I think that's a big deal is maybe you're somebody who's getting into thermal nighttime hunting, and you always hear people talking about having backup scopes, having buddy scopes, having a scope that you're using for a scanner as well. This right here would be a fantastic way to do that, because let's say that you get this optic, and let's say that you wanted to upgrade 3 years down the road. Well, because you've got the 10-year sensor warranty on this thing, use this as a backup gun or scope, use this as a buddy scope, use it as a scanner if you want to use it as a scanner. There's so many things that you can do with this to justify your money and to get your full money's worth out of it. I really think that it's worth it. So again, the clarity for me is really nice. And the other thing that I'm going to give them props on is the reticle, the clarity of the reticle. That's one issue that I've personally had with the iRays and the Noctixes. They have fantastic image quality, 100% awesome image quality, but I struggle to really enjoy the reticles that they have. I think that when you zoom in, I think the reticles get a little blurry. They feel a little big in comparison to the target that you're trying to shoot at. But again, we're talking about targets where we're shooting at 150 to 350, 400 yards. If you're staying under that, it's not that big of a deal. But to me, I really like the clarity and the crispness, if you will, of the reticle that they have in this really cheap, budget-friendly 640 thermal. So good for them on being able to kind of check all of those boxes. Now, one more little negative that I got, and this is the same negative that I've got with my iRay RH50R, but they changed it in, or I guess they made it available in the Noctix series, in the Pulsar stuff, and then in the AGM stuff. I really wish that there was a way, and I want to just double check and make sure that I'm not out of my mind here. With the zoom on this optic, with the PIP, you cannot independently zoom the picture-in-picture function. And the reason that that may be a big deal to some people is, let's say that you're hunting somewhere where you could potentially take a 200-yard shot, and let's say you're hunting by yourself and you call in 3 dogs. I don't want to have to sacrifice my base magnification wide field of view to be able to get that higher zoom level in my picture-in-picture. In that situation, I would love here to be able to independently zoom in my picture-in-picture out to the maximum zoom rating. I think it said it was right at 23x. So make that PIP right at the 23x, but leave my base mag at that 3, so that when I take my first shot, I'm using the picture-in-picture at that higher magnification level, but then I don't have to touch anything to get right back on that base mag to take a follow-up shot. Again, that's a very nitpicky type thing that I have, and I would say that 95% of the people out there on the market are not going to notice that whatsoever, because again, this is a very simple throw lever. We're talking about 1/8 of a second of going from max zoom to zoomed all the way out. And the good thing about it is very responsive. It's not like when you zoom it in, you have to sit there and wait on it to gradually zoom all the way in, and then when you zoom out, it gradually zooms all the way back out. It is very responsive. As soon as you zoom it in, it's zoomed in. As soon as you zoom it out, it zooms out. So we're talking about a fractions of a second of a nitpicky negative that I have. So it's not really that big of a deal, but it is something that is to talk about and something that some of you may care about. But all in all, the clarity, all the stuff you get the LRF, you get the ballistic calculation in it, because again, you can put your ballistic calcs in here and it'll give you your dope, give you your holdover, which is a very big deal. You get a lot of stuff packed into this 640 resolution optic for a mid $3,000 price range. What's not to love, guys? Absolutely awesome optic. If y'all are in the market looking for a thermal, check this optic out because I think it's going to turn some heads. I've enjoyed being behind it so far. I think you guys will enjoy it as well. If there's anything in the video that I did not cover, make sure you drop a comment down below. I'll try to answer those questions to the best of my ability. If I don't know the answer to it, I'll try to find somebody who's a lot smarter than me that can help us out with that. So again, thanks for hanging out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and I will be sure to see you guys on the next episode.